Good morning, everyone. I bring greetings from Fort Worth, Texas. The marketing people and the leaders of Fort Worth always talk about Fort Worth being Cowtown. So when visitors come for the first time, they anticipate seeing cowboys and cattle going down Main Street, kind of like the visuals in the brochures, and are pleasantly surprised when they find beautiful museums with incredible art. They find beautiful theaters, music halls, interesting people, and incredible green spaces where people can congregate and have wonderful conversations. So I've decided that really the marketing people want to create cognitive dissonance so that when you come and you're anticipating one thing and see another, you get terribly excited and you want to come back. And indeed, learning and changing is all about looking at things from a slightly different perspective. So maybe that's where they're coming from. I'm an optimist, so I tend to think that way. So as I was preparing for my presentation today, I wondered now, what would these brilliant, well-educated, intelligent people want to learn from me? And why would they be there instead of somewhere else? And it reminded me of a work of art that's at the Booth School of Business at the University of Chicago. And the work of art is a neon sign that says, "Why are you here and not somewhere else?" The artist challenges students every day to think about thinking, to analyze their motivation, to compare their interest in acquiring an education with other students, and to really think about, is that where they need to be and not somewhere else? So given that humanities are those academic disciplines that study the expressions of human beings, that explore and reveal what it means to be human, I will begin my presentation answering the question, why are you here and not somewhere else? I am here today because I am fully committed to the humanities and to support the humanities. I understand that education has never been more important than today. There is much evidence of the growing economic clout of the college-educated and the rising cost of not attending college. The income and inequality in the United States is the highest since 1928. And the wealth inequality is even greater. There is also a significant link, as we've heard this morning, between an educated population and a strong democracy. In answering the question, why are you here and not somewhere else, I can say that I am here by choice. I am an immigrant, and I am a U.S. citizen by choice. My parents are quite courageous. Like many other immigrants before them and after them, they had a vision of creating a better life for themselves and for us, for our entire family. They were willing to take a risk, to leave that which they knew and understood, and go to a country where they did not know English, they were not yet educated, they did not have money, and they did not know anyone that was interested in helping us. We had incredible barriers to overcome but we had a firm belief in the American dream. And it was that American dream that kept us focused and sustained us through a lot of challenging times. We also understood that the key to reaching the American dream was education. And so there was a tremendous focus in earning an education, in acquiring an education. Because we were not born here, we also understood that we had to work harder than everyone else. And something that was interesting in my parents, whenever we were faced with obstacles, they often would say, as soon as we learn English, as soon as we learn the culture, it's going to be fine. We just don't fully understand where they're coming from. And that was a very powerful message for us. I grew up in El Paso, Texas, which is a multicultural city and an entry point to the United States. It has a huge military presence, and today you have CIA, FBI, Homeland Security. It's one of the safest cities in the United States. If you so much as look at someone cross-eyed, you might get in trouble. So everybody follows the rules. But it is a very interesting community, and as a result of all the different people coming and going in that city, we heard languages from all over the world. We learned about cultures from all over the world, and we learned to adapt and navigate among people that were very different from us. Among the many lessons learned was that every challenge has many solutions. People can have the same experience and yet interpret it differently based on their perceptions and their backgrounds and where they came from. You have to adapt and reinvent yourself in order to survive, and we certainly did that many, many times and continue to do that. We learned to understand the motivation of others, and that many times doing the right thing takes great courage. The entire experience speaks to humanities, the academic disciplines that probe concepts such as purpose, meaning, judgment, all adding up to the capacity of self-reflection, abstract thought, and creativity. When we study literature and philosophy, we explore universal questions such as, who am I? What is my relationship to other people? What is my relationship to the environment, and so on? These issues continue to be important in the 21st century, perhaps more so than ever before. The 21st century challenges require new approaches and new solutions. So what are some of those challenges? And as David Barry so well explained, the community colleges really are, as they say in Texas, where the rubber hits the road. We're right there with the community. So first we have rising earnings disparity between young adults with and without a college degree. Eduardo Padron from Miami-Dade Community College often states that the new currency in the 21st century is knowledge and education. The global economy requires the ability to work in teams and collaborate, not just cooperate, but collaborate in finding solutions. The global economy requires the ability to think through abstract problems, distinguish good information from bad, speak more than one language. Being in Washington, you can appreciate that more so than maybe in other communities. Understand and respect other cultures, and learn how to leap across disciplines, because that is how breakthroughs now come about. It's interdisciplinary combinations, design and technology, mathematics and art, that produce YouTube, MySpace, iPhone, and iPads. In an era of blogs and podcasts, Google searches, and instant messages, people need to acquire a new set of literacy skills that allows them to locate information, sort through it quickly, and determine which is reliable and which is not. Information technology, digitization, is creating a second economy that is vast, automatic, and invisible. Today, business processes are becoming mechanized, and fewer people in the service sector are needed. For example, work that had been done by paralegals, draftsmen, telephone operators, that's all being done digitally. We do, however, still need professions which require human judgment and human interaction, such as medical doctors, teachers, police officers. A primary cause of downsizing in business and industry since 1990s is linked to these jobs that are disappearing to the second economy. This adds to the number of unemployed and the need for many to continue their education, and many of them actually come to community colleges. The globalization of our economy and our society makes understanding diversity an urgent priority. Dealing with the world means dealing with people from backgrounds and orientations other than our own. A key element of global competition is creativity. According to Richard Florida in The Rise of the Creative Class, the ability to come up with new ideas and better ways of doing things is ultimately what raises productivity and thus living standards. He suggests that factors affecting economic growth today include technology, measured by innovation and high-tech industry concentration, talent, measured by creative capital, and inclusiveness. Communities which are open to being inclusive have an edge in attracting different kinds of people and as a result generating new ideas. Linked to these variables, of course, are emotional intelligence and the ability to communicate effectively and work in a collaborative environment. People in business and industry often talk about relevance. When Microsoft selected a new CEO, Satya Nadella, he made the statement, and I quote, "What drives me every day and what keeps me up every night is one thing. This business is not about longevity. It's about relevance. To stay relevant, businesses must reinvent themselves continuously, and employees must keep up with the change." People in business and industry understand that key to global competitiveness is education. While jobs are plentiful, there is a huge disconnect between the skill set of the unemployed and those needed by business. There is tremendous need for individuals with skills in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. However, they also have to know how to write effectively and communicate effectively in order to get their job done. The business community, however, does not always understand the complexity of educating individuals at various stages of readiness for post-secondary education and acquiring the skills needed for the 21st century jobs. As a result, there has been friction between business and industry and post-secondary institutions. For example, in Texas in 2011, a prominent Texas business group put up provocative billboards in Austin and Dallas condemning low completion rates at the state's community colleges and questioning the value of tax dollars spent there. The Texas Association of Business, an advocacy group for business owners, and 200 local chambers of commerce put up signs to prod community colleges to do more to increase student success and help create a better educated workforce. At the same time, legislators in different states, including Texas, are questioning remedial education and are having conversations about eliminating funding for developmental courses. Legislation recently passed in Texas, which impacts high school curriculum, is reducing the requirements of college gatekeeper courses, such as Algebra 2, for graduation from high school. That means that we will be getting even more students, potentially getting even more students that are not college ready. Legislators are under tremendous pressure to produce more jobs in their communities and create opportunities for the unemployed to obtain jobs with wages that allow them to support themselves well. As the educational and economic environment in the United States continues to fall behind other developed countries in post-secondary attainment, the federal government is setting forth ambitious goals to increase the number of students who obtain a post-secondary education. The federal government is asking community colleges to expand partnerships with business and industry to address the skills gap. The general idea is for employers to give accurate and timely information on their skill needs, and the colleges to respond with training programs which allow students to obtain needed skills in a short period of time. They're limiting the number of hours that are acceptable for an associate's degree and limiting the number of hours for a bachelor degree. For an associate, 60 hours, and for a bachelor, 120 hours. And that's a tough journey. In addition to a focus on career and technical education, community colleges are being asked to consider alternative educational credentials, which are typically offered through continuing ed. These credentials address a wide variety of content areas, such as management, business, etc. Legislators at the national and state levels are also attempting to address the rising cost of post-secondary education and student debt. At the national level, through student financial aid, and at the state level through programs such as Affordable Baccalaureate Degree in Texas. 2 years after Governor Rick Perry of Texas called on the state's colleges to offer bachelor degrees that would cost students no more than $10,000 total, South Texas College, which is a community college, and Texas A&M at Commerce rolled out a joint Bachelor of Arts Applied Science program that is designed for students to complete within 3 years at a low cost. This program currently receives funding from EDUCAUSE, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and College for All Texans Foundation. Similar partnerships are being implemented throughout the state of Texas. Addressing all of these issues means that post-secondary educational institutions are faced with having to make significant changes if they're going to meet the needs of the 21st century learner. On January 8, 2014, the New York Times published an article by David Kerp titled, "How to Help Students Graduate." In the article, Kerp states that American students are enrolling in college in record numbers, but they are also dropping out in droves. Half of the students who start in four-year institutions, and only 1/3 of those who start at a community college finish. He proposes that a solution is to transform post-secondary institutions to give that care and attention given to students in elite institutions. Nearly 90% of students who attend top-ranked universities earn a bachelor degree in 4 years. It is true that these universities have the brightest and the best students, but they also give those students an incredible amount of support. So a student entering Harvard is told from day one, whatever challenge you have, someone is here to give you that support. According to the article in the New York Times, it costs an additional $3,900 per student to give that kind of support. As you think about the restructuring of post-secondary education, one can clearly see the important role that humanities must play as we explore relationships between students and faculty members, as we redesign learning environments, as we evaluate programs and curriculum to ensure that our students acquire the skills they need to be successful in the 21st century. Community colleges are an American concept focused on access and the will to educate everyone. It is truly American. When I served a college in Austin, we were visited by people from all over the world that wanted to know what a community college was and how we could educate the masses, how we could educate so many people with such little money and such few resources. This linked to the fundamental belief that a democracy can only exist when you have educated people who make good decisions for themselves and the community. Our institutions, based on American values, innovation, and creativity, help change people's lives for the better, all people. By creating a culture of communication and cooperation, community colleges play an important role in the economic development of a community. The best definition of economic development was given by George Autry, who was the founding CEO of MDC, a think tank in North Carolina. He defined economic development as, and I quote, "the process by which a community creates, retains, and reinvents wealth to improve its productive capacity and raise the standard of living for all citizens." The ultimate purpose of development is not just to create jobs, but to achieve a higher standard of living for people. This definition stresses the importance of equity concerns. People need jobs and they need bootstraps. Community colleges give people bootstraps. Community colleges are important to the training of individuals and the enrichment of the community. Personal assets are built and accumulated through literacy and job training, through encouraging people to broaden their horizons. Community colleges have never been fully funded, never. And their survival has been dependent on innovation, creativity, partnerships, collaboration. Being dependent on the community and a close partner means we constantly have to examine our mission, what is our business, our stakeholders, students, community leaders, legislators, business and industry, and we attempt to answer the question, what do our stakeholders value and need, and what will they support? Currently, we have mounting pressure to reduce cost and increase operating efficiency. While access continues to be important, a new focus today, creating the urgency for transformation, is a focus on student learning outcomes. Community colleges have to link access and completion to ensure that equitable outcomes are obtained by learners. The transformation requires strategic leadership and lots of conversation involving governance and involving management, involving the community. By offering the primary pathway to higher education for historically underserved students, including students who are underprepared for college-level coursework and who struggle to finish, community colleges have a more difficult time demonstrating success. If the definition of college success shifts from access to completion without recognizing that the two are related, community colleges are vulnerable for additional criticism and less support from the public. When we look at the data being collected at the federal level, state level, local level, it's really a very limited data that's being collected. For example, the U.S. Department of Ed, their official graduation rate, they record that by saying that they only count fall enrolled, full-time, first-time degree-seeking students. Community colleges don't have very many of those full-time students. Most, I would say, close to 70% of our students are part-time students. They're working, taking care of family, and doing a number of other things in addition to being students. The other thing that we've learned is that data are not being collected appropriately, and so where we make progress, we don't have the evidence of that progress at all times. And so we are really having to work hard in changing the collection of data. The community college must join the conversation in partnership with policymakers to find the right measures and disaggregate those measures by student subgroups. Additionally, students' diverse goals need to be understood and honored so that low rates of completion are not blamed on students' uncertainty, ignorance, or under-preparation. If the college completion agenda is to succeed, more attention should be paid to understanding the ways that deficit thinking influences policymakers and to work on improving that. Examples of national programs that focus on aligning governmental, institutional, and program-level policies by engaging policymakers and practitioners in strategic conversations are Achieving the Dream, critical assessments designed by the Center for Urban Education, University of Southern California, Pathways to Results developed by the Office of Community College Research and Leadership at the University of Illinois, Developmental Education Initiative, and the Completion by Design, funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. All of the initiatives honor the community college's historic commitment to access and seek to create more equitable outcomes among student subgroups, including the outcome of college completion. Jobs for the Future provides strategic consultation and technical assistance to states to design and drive the adoption of education and career pathways leading from college readiness to career advancement for those struggling to succeed. Completion by Design works with community colleges and their state partners to create transformational changes in policy, programs, and practices that strengthen pathways to completion while maintaining access and quality without increasing cost. Achieving the Dream is a national movement supporting colleges interested in transformational change which supports the completion agenda. In Texas, education leaders created a Texas Student Success Council in 2011 to join forces with business. The business people were attacking us, and they were the first ones to be recruited to the Texas Student Success Council, to include philanthropic and nonprofit organizations, all of whom have agendas to improve the completion rates of our students. And the philanthropic groups have been extremely supportive because they have tremendous power and can influence communities, can influence legislators, and can provide the funding that we need to make the transformational changes. In 2013, the Texas legislature adopted most of the council's recommendations, including the implementation of outcomes-based funding a redesign of developmental math education and competency-based education pilot program and new transfer policies. On the outcome-based funding, originally the community colleges were very much against it. And the concern in Texas was that we would move in the same direction as Tennessee, where most of the funding is based on completion rates. And so the compromise was to be upfront and say, this is what we want, but we want it to be 10% of our funding and not 100% of our funding. And that was part of the negotiation that had to take place. That made the business community happy, the legislators happy, and those of us trying to make things work in the community colleges really happy. But we had to step up front and take the lead on that rather than to wait for others to make those decisions for us. At the local level, community colleges are creating partnerships with secondary institutions which have potential for preparing students a little bit better as they move from high school to college. That's been an interesting journey. We opened the door for that dialogue through dual enrollment and early college high school. And in the process of those long conversations, we have our faculty and their faculty come together in discussing what needs to be covered in the curriculum. And as a result of that, more of the high schools that we're working with are creating an attending college culture. The curricula are more aligned and the students are better prepared. I actually have the first early college high school in Tarrant County, and we will have students graduating from high school that also have an associate's degree. And these are children whose parents never went to college. These children are their first in their family to attend college. And we gave them the support to be successful, and they are the biggest advocates for what we're trying to do. The partnerships have been quite valuable. They require a tremendous amount of effort and a tremendous amount of work. But we have outstanding faculty that are willing to have the tough conversations and are respectful and are open to what the high school faculty members bring to the table. And it's been really a very powerful conversation. Equally important are partnerships with universities, which allow us to continue being advocates for our students long after they complete their educational journey at the community college. We simplify the transition for our students to universities by keeping articulation agreements updated and by having important conversations regarding the curriculum. And that's extremely important in more ways than we probably have time to discuss. But I can say that every community that I've served, I worked just as hard with the universities as I worked with the high school superintendents. Because I knew that the universities could be very helpful to us at the community college, and I knew that we could be helpful to them as well, and those partnerships were always very, very positive. But they did require a lot of dialogue, a lot of conversation, a lot of exchange of ideas. Our partnerships with business and industry are critical at every level in the community colleges. In terms of ensuring that the curriculum addresses the skill sets that individuals need in the 21st century job market, in terms of acquiring support from business and industry, faculty, and other resources. All of our technical programs have a history of partnerships. Disciplines in the humanities have an opportunity to connect with business by including service learning and community engagement as part of the course requirements. And I was sitting next to a professor this morning that is including a lot of service learning in the work that she does with her students, and I greatly appreciate that. In order to address initiatives, accelerated needed changes, and unfunded legislative mandates, community colleges are having to seek external funding from foundations and corporations. What we have learned is that funders do not fund needs. They fund solutions. They want to partner with winners. They look for evidence that our strategy is built on existing significant strengths of the college. They focus on the partnership, what the funder on the college can do together. The overall goal of fundraising is to take the institution to new levels of excellence which tuition, federal, state, and local funding cannot provide. The partnerships are providing resources for community colleges, not only in terms of financial resources, but more importantly, in corporate volunteerism and exchange of information. Post-secondary institutions, which are on the cutting edge and will continue to thrive in the 21st century, have entrepreneurial faculty and staff who focus on re-engineering and redesigning basic operations to improve student outcomes. Faculty members teaching in the humanities have opportunities to partner with those teaching in the workforce programs and other disciplines as they restructure curriculum and change instructional approaches. Changing instructional approaches from what to think to how to think. Faculty members are also partnering with students, and before I move to the student component, I have to say faculty are truly key to any transformational change, and I fully capture that. I fully capture that teaching is a very tough job. Keeping up with research, keeping up with the latest in every area is a very, very tough job. And I personally move heaven and earth for all of our faculty members because I know that if they're happy, my students are happy. So, how are faculty partnering with students? Students involved in Phi Theta Kappa, which is our Community College Honor Society, are conducting their own focus groups. They're collecting their own data and encouraging other students to commit to complete. And they have they've developed their own marketing strategies to reach out to other students. Because we never have all the resources that we need, we have to be really creative. And we've hired students to help as mentors, to help as tutors. The unintentional consequence is that the students being hired to mentor and tutor are extremely successful as students. And then the people that they are working with, because they can connect, they're closer in age and all of that, that is increasing the retention and the completion rate as well. On our campus, faculty and staff use positive psychology with students. In our communication with them, we talk about leadership development. So when we hire them to be a tutor or a mentor, we tell them this is part of their leadership development. And indeed, we want them to be successful, and we anticipate that they will finish their degree, continue going to the university, and not only earn a bachelor degree, but a master's and a doctorate, so they can come back and work for us. In other words, in everything that we say and do with them, we tell them that they are extremely valuable and important to us. It is important for faculty members to apply their knowledge of communication and understanding of people with different perspectives in helping administrators find solutions. On February 11, 2014, the Inside Higher Education published an article about the Alamo Community College District, yes, in Texas, whereby the chancellor is requesting that the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board approve his bid for a course heavily influenced by the popular self-help book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Steve Covey, to become part of the curriculum in place of Humanities course. The Chancellor stated that he was responding to calls from local and national business leaders to ensure that students graduate with soft skills. Throughout the article, it appeared that no conversation had taken place between the top-level administration and the faculty and staff members who are working closely with the students. So what are some lessons learned? Engage each of the stakeholder groups that influence post-secondary education, such as K through 12 educational entities, business and industry, other post-secondary institutions, nonprofit organizations, foundations, and people of influence. Ensure that you cast a wider net to include individuals with different viewpoints who might not have been included in the conversation in the past. And that's what the presidents in Texas have learned, that you have people attacking you, you make sure you build a relationship with them and they understand that your intentions are positive, and they figure out how you're going to help them with their agenda, whatever that may be. Include student voices, which are often absent during conversations regarding policy. The student voice is extremely, extremely powerful, because what you learn is that you can explain logically why things should happen a certain way, but it's emotion that motivates people to change. And the stories told by the students tap the emotional part of your brain. And so it doesn't matter how logical you are, you have to tell the story. As institutions redirect funds toward practices that support student success, ensure that you are informed and find ways in which you can support that effort, or find ways in which the humanities can be a part of that conversation. Ensure connection between exemplary college practice and policy. Create parameters to ensure healthy conversation between individuals with diverse viewpoints, and that's a tough thing to do. Talk about diplomacy. It takes every bit of diplomacy to work things through individuals that might have a completely different agenda from yours and that may not be interested in helping you. Evaluate your human resources in that they are more valuable than money, always more valuable than money. To ensure that post-secondary education is relevant in the 21st century, it is critical for institutions to reinvent themselves. Relationships are primary. Through conversation, we create conditions for people to think together and create healthy relationships. To answer the questions, what is the identity of the campus? What is unique about our institution? What do our stakeholders need? We stand on great shoulders, we're not alone. Find resources in those around you. Use compassion and insight. The new world before us is vast, interconnected, and extraordinarily productive. How we fare in this world is dependent on our ability to adapt, transform ourselves, and ensure that our institutions are relevant. It is very much up to us. Muchísimas gracias y que Dios los bendiga. Okay. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
A colleague of mine once observed that the reason that the nomenclature had shifted from junior colleges to community colleges is because community colleges serve a much wider audience than simply preparing students to go on for BAs or BMs. So could you respond to, number one, whether you think that is an accurate reflection of the current role of community colleges, and number two, how you address that with, for example, the business people who are putting up the billboards?
Right. Yes. Well, it is correct that we had to change our name from junior college to community college, in that originally a lot of the colleges, including Tarrant County, we used to be Tarrant County Junior College. Our mission really was to educate freshman and sophomore level students and then transfer them on to a senior institution. And as the college evolved and the community's demands increased, we realized that we really were a community college addressing many missions. I mentioned that we have to evaluate our mission all the time, because at the same time that we're being asked to do a lot of different things, lifelong learning, we have a senior ed program, we have a college for kids, we have early college, high school, we have people that are preparing to go on to universities and some that are preparing to go on to work. We have to really evaluate that and decide what is the most important and where do we put our resources and all of our funding, which makes it very difficult. But indeed, it also forces us to constantly have conversations with the community, conversations with business and industry, and it's a two-way thing. They come to us thinking this is what we want and this is how we need it done. And we listen, we're very good listeners, and we translate that to what will really help them achieve their goal and get to where they need to be. But we do understand that's part of our role.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah. Jay Malone, the History of Science Society. Thank you, Dr. LeBlanc, for the presentation. I see where you are as kind of like a star. Instead of showing us what the past looks like, the future is the representation. We the people is increasingly Hispanic. And we're going to have to increasingly work with businesses. I was at the American Association for the Advancement of Science meeting last month, and the thing that they really emphasized, the theme was innovation, was that it's not foundations and it's not government where the money for innovation is coming from, it's business. So I'm wondering how, from the experience that you have working with businesses, what can the humanities do in partnership with the businesses where they're searching for simple answers and we're looking to trouble the answers?
Well, I usually have a team of individuals with me, and I always include a faculty member from the humanities in the conversations when working with business and industry. And I understand that we have to work through their perceptions and ours and where they need to be. But there is a role for humanities there. And in fact, if you start talking to the CEOs of those companies, most of them had a liberal arts education. And they will tell you about, all the literature and how great that was, and their experiences and learning languages and about the arts and so forth. So they do get it. However, we have to help them connect the dots. And we're working with people that are on survival mode, people that are unemployed, people that have to feed their families and so forth, and then businesses that have to move quickly. They can't always reflect on, the day and such as that. They have to move quickly or they don't survive. And so our role is helping them to connect the dots. And indeed, our humanities faculty are very good about that. They're more translators than anything else, but they're very effective in communicating. And the most important piece, as I see my role, is to ensure that our faculty have confidence, have the confidence to help people in the business world connect the dots, have confidence in what they're doing and the work that they're doing and the way in which they're changing people's lives for the better every day.